Hello everyone, Dr. Shabazz here, and this is a very short video on the project. We have established groups in the class, and I hope that you all are at the point where you have chosen a group leader. And if you've done that, from that group leader, I will need a memo or a message containing the group leader's name, contact information, all of the members of the groups. Make sure you have their name spelled correctly and the country that you have chosen or have decided to choose out of the region that you selected. Now, it's very important that we establish a rhythm because we're coming out of a break and many of us are very relaxed, but we have to make sure that we carry that momentum on to the end of the semester. This project is the capstone of the course. It is a 20% or 20% of the overall grade, so you want to make sure you take it seriously. And as far as the group dynamics, you want to make sure that you participate. There is a peer assessment at the very end, so everybody will have a chance to have their say in terms of how the group performed and how each individual performed in the group, as far as things such as team spirit, being on time, making certain contributions, and just an overall mindset of ensuring that this project succeeds. And so that will happen at the very end. Going into a project like this, there is a tendency for groups to divvy up the work, divide up the work. And that's all fine and good, but make sure that the work is of good quality. Make sure that everyone has a chance to sign off on it. Make sure that there are consistencies in the work. Oftentimes what I have had in the past, and I have a couple of hundred of these in my file cabinet here, is that you'll look through a document and there will be a statistic. Now that statistic should be the same throughout the document, but in some instances I will find a particular statistic having a different number or a different set of facts. You want to make sure there's consistency throughout. If you're doing this for a company, let's say you're a consulting company and another company has contracted you to do this work, and they're looking through it and they see inconsistencies. And if they see that, they may not know if your work is credible. It will draw that into question. So make sure there are consistencies. Make sure there are consistencies not only in the content, but also the way it looks. So you have to make sure, and I'm looking at this project here, it has different fonts. You want to make sure the fonts are consistent. You want to make sure the margins are consistent. I have here, you may not be able to see this, but the margins are inconsistent. They're on one page, so it's obvious to see. There are other issues with this, and I just picked this out of a file cabinet. They did a good job on the country at a glance. It's a fact sheet, and that fact sheet is one such that if the client is looking at this and they want to know anything about that country, they can go to that one page and they can get that information. Page numbers, of course, in the final product. And once you're done, and I'm going to actually switch to the outline here. Focus on the outline a little bit here. The title page here is going to be done last. That's this very fancy. Of course, you have many different styles depending on how the group wants to approach it and how fancy they want to be on the first page. All right. You have some very nice covers, and then some of them are very plain. So it will depend on how creative your group wants to get, and I'm fine with that. But that's done at the end. Table of contents is also done at the end, and you want to make sure that you learn how to generate a table of contents in any document that you do that's of significant length. And it takes you can watch a YouTube video on it, but it takes looking at what it is that you want in your table of contents, the different levels, because you have different heading levels. And if you tag these and you generate the table of contents, you'll have a table of contents and you'll have the indentations that are already built in based upon the level of your headings. So it's a pretty easy thing to set up. It's just can be tedious because you have to go through the entire document and put the tags. But when you generate, all of the page numbers line up with the headings. One of the drawbacks of doing table of contents by hand is if you do it by hand, you put the leader dots, the page number, you do that for all of the different sections that you see here. All of these will be a section, right? And you will have your table of contents with the actual page number, excluding the title page. Title page is not a page number. And these preliminary sections here will generally have lowercase Roman numerals as numbers. And then you have these is where you would start the Arabic numbers. But you would have this, for example, country at a glance, leader dots, and then the page number, right? And so you would have the page numbers all the way through. The point I'm getting at is if you do it by hand, and let's say you're changing the document, you're making additions, you're taking things out, you're moving things around, what may happen is that the page numbers will no longer be accurate. And so, or some of the content may have been pushed down or brought on to the previous page. And so you have to be very careful that you make sure the page numbers coincide with the actual document. There's nothing worse than going into a document, going to the table of contents, looking at a particular section that you want and the page number, going to that page number and it's not there. Because that throws in the entire project into question. Because if you've missed that, if you're careless on page numbers, what else are you careless at as far as the attention to detail? So make sure you have that. And these are all things that are logical to understand. You want to make sure that you're on point as far as the presentation of the document is concerned. So yes, country at a glance is easy to do. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can find this information on many different websites, and you put them in nice columns and you reduce the font so you can get as much as you need to on that page. And you can also decorate it and put some of the national symbols, flags, and other types of aesthetics that will make the document stand out. So this is actually Spain, and they have the flag, coat of arms, and just other things that may make it appear attractive. What are some of the other things that you'll be doing? So you'll actually do an introduction of why essentially you chose this country. What makes the country one with potential to position a U.S. product? There's a reason you chose the country that you chose, and you will articulate that in the introduction. You will give a brief history. This is not an exhaustive history, but you'll just give enough so that we can understand what the country is, what its history is, how it evolved, and of course that will relate to the other factors as well. Geographic setting. The geographic setting is nothing more than where is this country located. And many groups have simply put, or not just simply, but they included a map in their explanation as to where this country is located. And it is important. We talked about market entry strategies. What is important when you look at the geographic setting is where that country is located. How does the coastline look? Is it landlocked? Is it an island? What countries is that body of land next to? Is it mountainous? Does it have valleys? All of these things are very important in terms of distribution. So that's why the geographic setting is so important. Now, moving down to some of the things that you will be dealing with more sooner than later. Situational analysis is later. Basic need potential is later because you have not chosen a product yet. So what you want to do is focus on the uncontrollables here. These are all the factors that you will look at that will determine how you will handle the marketing mix, or the 4 Ps, which is part 3. This represents the marketing mix. As you can see, product lines or product to export, channels of or pricing methods, channels of distribution, which is place, and marketing strategy, which is promotion. So this is part 3. What you're doing now is focusing on parts 1 and 2, and that will get you going. There will be a day in which each group will have a chance to introduce their country. And this is just a short 5-minute presentation on the name of the country, some basic facts about the country, maybe some fun facts, and then that's it. But that'll get you going, and you certainly need to expedite the research that you need to do so that you won't be rushing later on in the semester trying to get this thing together. What else? Make sure when you deal with your uncontrollables that there's a balance. So you don't want to have a situation where I'm looking through this, or I'm reading this, and I'll look at the political legal environment, and it will be 1 page. And then I'll look at economic financial, it's 3 pages. And I'll look at the cultural environment, social cultural environment, it's 5 pages. And then I look at physical environment, it's 1 page. So you want to make sure that it's balanced, that there's balance within the document. There's balance in terms of the writing. You want to make sure that there's consistency. You want to make sure once you finish the document that you do a select all and make sure the fonts are the same. Make sure the numbers, the numbers of the outline are the same font. You may have to go in here and individually click on the outline and then change the font separately from the rest of the document. I've had to do that when I'm working in Word. I'll do select all, choose the font I want, but then you notice the outline numbers don't change, so you have to change those separately. But that's it. That should give you an idea of what you should focus on now. Make sure that you participate in this project. Don't have people, or don't have your group, and you're certainly not your group leader, chasing you around, because you need to get your part in. There's a deadline, and they can't get anything from you. You don't attend meetings, because that's certainly going to be detrimental to your grade in the end when it comes to the peer assessment. But it's also something that you don't want to get into the habit of doing. You don't want people to carry your burden or to carry your weight, because that is something moving forward in your matriculation here that people remember. They remember that about you, and you don't want that kind of reputation to precede you. So make sure that you're all in on this. You have your work when it is requested of your group leader. And for the group leader, make sure that you have the communication lines open. Make sure that you give your group members every chance to succeed, and make sure that you are understanding in terms of the variety of situations that you'll face. We'll have group leader meetings, and hopefully any problems that come forth, we will be able to deal with them. And if it's such a situation that is so difficult that we can't handle within our group leader meetings, then I will also step in to help with that process. I have Canvas groups that are set up for each group, and I will be sending you messages. So make sure you check those messages and make sure that you're following the Canvas post that I put up. So I will be making these available. You can look at these. I also have, as I said, I've got about 200 here. I'm looking at St. Kitts. I'm looking at Spain. I'm looking at Dominica, Thailand, lots of different countries. You probably have already selected your country, but make sure if you have not selected your country that you do so that you can get started on the research phase in deciding what that country is like, what its needs and wants are, and what products would be most suitable to position in that market. Again, we're not doing electronics, we're not doing industrial goods, we're not doing things like standardized products like bottled water and cell phones. We're doing something that will need some adaptation and that will require some considerations of the uncontrollable variables and adaptation of the marketing mix. All right. So that's all I'm going to say. And hopefully I will receive these memos or notices about the group and the countries you've decided to do. If you have a question about whether or not you can do a particular country, just let me know. We'll discuss it and we'll move on from there. Okay. Hopefully you had a good spring break, and I look forward to seeing you Monday. I will be giving you further information on our classroom, but as of now, we'll still be in room 216 South Wing, and I'll see you all on Monday. Take care.